to end up being fuel for surrogacy rumors. Because why else are you being sort of suspicious and secretive around labor and birth unless you're trying to shuffle out a surrogate? And
time that I've actually indulged the theory, because if we can show that video again, I don't know, can we show it without playing the weird sound?
What if the most scrutinized royal birth story of the century isn't a story at all, but a strategy? Tonight,
Indulged the theory, because if we can show that video again, I don't know, can we show it without playing the weird sound? That belly looks very abnormal.
we're unpacking the timeline, the quotes, and the press choreography around Meghan and Harry's pregnancy narrative, what was said, what was implied, and what was actually confirmed on record.
has drawn a lot of attention to the controversies surrounding her kids, her pregnancies, how the children came into the world.
You're going to learn exactly how one viral monologue from Candace Owens supercharged years of online suspicion, why conflicting announcements became the spark, and the 3 pressure points that won't die.
HRH is formally revoked, according to the Daily Beast, by Prince William, then King William.
Timeline gaps, message control, and the trust problem that follows. By the end, you'll have the receipts, a clean map of what's verified, what's disputed, and how celebrity storytelling can turn a private moment into a public referendum. Let's start where the internet didn't.
It's done.
Even want Harry at his coronation. I mean, that is extraordinary. That shows you how far things have fallen. I don't think there is a way back.
With the difference between rumor and record. Rumor lives in jump cuts and screenshots. Record lives in statements, date stamps, and who said what, when. Keep that lens on as we walk through this, because once you separate narrative flourishes from documented facts, the pattern becomes hard to ignore. First, the spark. A split-screen moment. Buckingham Palace pushes in labor. Then baby is here. Headlines flip mid-cycle. Reporters scramble. Audiences sense a mismatch. Was the confusion malicious? Not necessarily. But perception doesn't wait for nuance. When you change the script in real time without explaining why, you create a vacuum. And the internet always fills a vacuum, with certainty or with speculation. Guess which moves faster? Enter Candace Owens. Love her or hate her, her superpower is blunt framing. She didn't invent the whispers, but she recut them with a cleaner hook. If the medical details are shaky and the announcements don't line up, what else is off? It wasn't a medical lecture. It was a branding critique disguised as a question. And it traveled because questions travel farther than accusations. Now hold that thought and build the timeline. Early hours, birth reported. Later that day, clarifications hit. Days after, carefully curated visuals and quotes. Weeks to months, memoir recollections layer emotional color onto logistical facts. None of this, on its own, proves deception. But it does prove control, a strong preference for managing optics, pacing disclosures, and withholding context until it suits a bigger reveal. In celebrity PR, that can work. In monarchy, with its ritualized transparency, it detonates. The medical beat is where people get heated, so let's be surgical. Online commentators pounced on phrases like 2 epidurals and home the same day, as if they're courtroom exhibits. In reality, obstetric care is nuanced. Some details that read impossible in a comment thread can be rare but real in practice. Others are likely misremembered, compressed for narrative, or simplified for a general audience. The takeaway isn't that a single line proves or disproves anything. It's that mixing cinematic language with clinical claims invites a fact-check dogpile, and that dogpile becomes the story. Which brings us to the palace versus press dynamic, the oldest thriller in British media. Traditional royal births follow a choreography the public recognizes, an initial note, a formal confirmation, a brief appearance, controlled access. The Sussexes flirted with a different model. Privacy first, narrative later. The intent may have been protection. The effect looked like manipulation. When protocol is a promise and you break the promise without a transparent why, you don't just frustrate reporters. You train audiences to doubt future statements, even truthful ones. Why did Candace's clip hit nerve endings the palace could never anesthetize? Because it reframed a royal moment as a masterclass in modern mythmaking. It wasn't did X happen? It was who's writing the script and why do the beats keep changing? That's bigger than a hospital, bigger than a bulletin. It's about the industrial complex of my truth content, The docuseries, the confessional specials, the memoir cadence, colliding with an institution that survives on ritual, not revelation. But let's be fair. Public figures are allowed boundaries. Privacy is not proof of a cover-up. And the ugliest corners of this debate leap to demeaning theories that target a mother, her body, and her children. Lines we're not crossing here. What we are examining is message discipline and the cost of controlling a story too tightly. Because here's the paradox. The more you curate, the more audiences inspect the curation. Every corrected headline becomes a breadcrumb. Every flourish in a memoir becomes a microscope slide. And once narrative management becomes the headline, the human moment underneath gets lost. Now, the 3 pressure points that keep this alive. 1. Timeline gaps. When official updates contradict each other, trust bleeds. You don't need malice. You just need confusion. Confusion is enough. Point 2. Message control. Withholding basic logistics while offering cinematic details later feels like swapping facts for vibes. In a royalty meets PR world, that reads as strategy, not sincerity. Point 3. The trust problem. Once audiences think your story shifts to fit the platform, a show, a book, a podcast, future statements carry a discount. Even true ones. And here's the piece almost nobody spells out. This isn't just about Meghan and Harry. It's about how all modern celebrity narratives are packaged. Control is currency. Vulnerability is product. Distribution is power. You can win for a season on those rules. But the bill arrives when the receipts don't match the rhetoric. That's the credibility tax, and it compounds to what's actually verified and what isn't. Verified, confusing comms, rapid cycling announcements, and a subsequent media strategy that prized privacy while still engaging the spotlight. Verified, a cultural climate primed to turn any contrast with royal tradition into controversy. Disputed, interpretations of medical details recounted later in emotive prose. Disputed, insinuations about motives that no outsider can prove. Off limits, speculative attacks on children or demeaning claims about a mother's body. We're not doing that, full stop. That if you strip the noise, you're left with a cleaner thesis. A highly produced personal brand collided with an institution that punishes improvisation. The brand tried to bend protocol to modern taste. The institution pushed back with silence. The press exploited the gap. Commentators weaponized the inconsistencies. Audiences, already cynical, chose the more entertaining story, that the script was the point. Here's the uncomfortable truth for every public figure watching. People will forgive almost anything except feeling managed. If you need privacy, say so plainly and accept the PR hit. If you want to share facts first and flourishes later. Don't reverse the order. Don't romanticize logistics. Don't create mystery where none is required. Mystery is gasoline. Where does this land? With a question only you can answer. If the announcements had been boring and consistent, would any of this have blown up? Or did the combination of shifting beats, media theatrics, and memoir melodrama make a private milestone look like a marketing campaign? That's the heart of it, not medicine, not conspiracy. Trust, here's what you came for, the clean framework to judge any public storyline going forward. Ask when. Do timestamps and statements align across platforms? Ask who. Which party benefits from each narrative beat? The palace, the press, or the principals? Ask how. Are emotionally loaded details doing the work that verifiable facts should be doing? If those 3 answers wobble, expect controversy to outlive the moment. Final question. And it's the only one that matters in the long run. When the spotlight moves, what remains? An event that speaks for itself, or a performance that needs constant explanation? With this story, the explanations keep multiplying. That's the tell. If you found this breakdown useful, buckle up. Next, we're tracing how royal protocol became influencer optics, why the photo call still matters, when breaking it helps, and when it detonates. Subscribe so you don't miss the sequel, and drop your verdict in the comments. Did messy comms create a scandal out of thin air, or did a carefully managed narrative collapse under its own weight?